Hello and welcome. This is Alchemistexe, and today we are going to be looking at Corvus and his Job Plus. So Corvus is one of the first Babel units that came out back when Babel Chronicles were still a thing. And if you do not have him, he is fairly easy to obtain, provided you have enough patience. You can just keep farming his shards until you can transmute him. If you ended up never pulling him, there's been a lot of chances for it. So I imagine a lot of people are going to have him either way. But if you don't yet have him, I do recommend transmuting him because he is a very good, very free-to-play friendly type of character. He's got a memento that's given to you via the event. So in situations like that, I suppose that the ceiling for him would not be as high as a character where you need more gacha elements on them. But it's also just more accessible because then you can have him and have the max limit break memento and, just go to town. He's definitely like, if Gerald is like the ceiling of physical thunder units, like in my opinion, he's not reaching that height, but I still think he's pretty good. And he's also just really fun to use. I'm displaying him here in a stage where it's like kind of perfect for him because a lot of the damage is magic. And it's, he's probably a little outscaling it as well, given the updates. Because I don't remember if these advanced levels were made towards 91 or towards 95. But either way, a Gate 6 unit is definitely going to outstat it a little bit, or a lot in this case. But because there's so much magic, that's why I wanted to show that he's basically, you could almost consider him immune to magic, provided it's not 100% hit. Because between the magic evade stat that he's got, and then the ability to potentially evade it as well, that makes him very rare. I don't think a single spell hit him in this entire little battle. So that's kind of fun. And then he also does some fun things with status effects both on himself and on enemies. And given that he is a shadow assassin, he has a lot of options there. He actually has a lot of options in general, but I do think that he will have a lot less to bring to the table if status effects aren't an option. So that's something to think about. But even without status effects, he can still hit some pretty good numbers via backstabs. So yeah, that is about it for the summary. Otherwise, we're just going to do the typical look at the status screen, what his skills are, memento, gears, and enlightenment, and then we'll showcase his moves in a little more detail. So with that, let us move on to the unit screen. Okay, here we are at Corvus's status screen. So he is a very strong and very fast unit. He does have the split scaling, so having super high P attack is not as beneficial, but he can still get some decent damage in there. So let's take a look at the runes first. I went for P attack and P defense. Evasion is also a viable option with the Phantom set. I just felt satisfied with his evasion as it was, and so I opted for more damage. But you definitely could throw more of that on there. And then I chose P defense over M defense because he almost never gets hit with magic. Alright, let's take a look at my skill setup. So most of the time I like to run him this way. You can trade out the status effects that basic killing offers and do basic Dark Cavalier stuff instead. Get yourself a little jewel drain. The life drain's not going to be that impressive, but especially because in his most optimal setup, he's going to have disable heal on him anyway for the duration of the battle. So that's less good. And then he's got other ways to raise his own attack. So it used to be more viable to run him with the Dark Cavalier sub than it is now. But in perhaps a niche situation, the ability to steal jewels might come in handy. But it is worth remembering that some of his good conditional damage relies on the enemy having a status effect on them. So you have less options that way. But you do have other options like from the gear ability and the memento ability if you are running the Dark Cavalier sub. And then I think Shadow Boundaries for a reaction is most ideal, especially when or only when magic is an option. If you're not up against magic, 1, you wouldn't want to use this, and 2, you may want to consider using Corvus at all in a situation devoid of magic, because his specialty is like a magic slayer. But I guess if you're short on thunder physical units and you just need somebody strong now that has a good job plus and good level of enlightenment, then you could mix it up a little bit. You could do Stance of the Runner instead, and the Dark Cavalier sub, and have him be a more all-around damage dealer rather than an anti-magic specialist. But I think he shines much brighter as an anti-magic specialist. And then you definitely want his Gate 2, which is Overdrive, or even if you don't have Gate 2 yet, Overdrive is a big contributor to his damage. And then Moonrobe is a much, much needed improvement on Robes of Moonlight, because it used to only improve magic res and magic evasion, and now it adds a snowball of a P attack and dex every time he dodges an attack. So that is handy. That's like adding a more offensive slant to a passive like that is definitely very, very welcome. All right, let's take a look at his memento for a second. Really, the only memento he's going to want is the free event one. It's going to give you lots of things that you want: reaction block, strong versus humans, agility, thunder, evasion rate, crit rate, and this fun attack that will move targets forward and inflict slow on them and then lower their slash res while the slow is active. So if they're immune to slow, that move is way less valuable, but it still does give you another attack, and you can probably still drain P attack even if you can't do the slow. And of course, having max limit break will give you a little extra agility. Now, free mementos don't give as much when you max limit break them as the gotcha mementos, but it is still nice to have free agility. And then the leader skill is not terrible either. You can keep the 20% magic evasion that his normal leader skill gives, but just add 40% slash. So great offensively, not good defensively, but you don't always need defensive capability in a leader skill. So it's all right. I think the main drag is that there's not enough Shadow Messiah mementos, at least right now. We've got, although there's enough to field a full team though. So I think that's what's important. Plus, you could always just throw duplicates or whatever your surplus of the free memento is on any units that want to be part of that group skill. So I think that's more like a beginner-friendly type of situation rather than something that would benefit veterans. And then as far as gears go, he has his own gear now, which is the VCR from that memento. So it doesn't have agility on him. I used to run him with the Dirk of Projection because it had 10 agility on it. So that's something of a downside, but you do get 13 evasion and a big all-around him 8-hit attack as well. It is a randomly striking, so you're probably not going to hit all 8 times. But at least with a random accuracy move, the more hits the better, because then the chance of at least one of them hitting and then hopefully adding a status effect on there is a good chance. But if you really want that agility, you could throw, you have the Dirk of Projection. There is that. Although you don't really need regen type of gear. I used to always run him with regen, and you still could, but the benefit that his disable heal buff gives is so big that I don't feel like it's necessary. So instead, I think Legion is pretty good for him if you're lucky enough to have it, because yeah, that takes care of your agility, and then it also helps with crit rate. And since his skills can crit, that's always good. And then any situation where magic is involved, if you have this from the Christmas event, the Malda Tribe Mittens, 20 magic evade, that'll stack with like his leader skill and just his passive abilities, and that's why every magic attack missed him in the intro. Okay, let's look at some of his gates now. Because he is 3 times a day farmable from Babel, it wasn't too hard to get them all maxed out. So 1 is stats he wants. 2 will increase your overdrive by 10%, or the P attack in overdrive by 10%, as well as 15, I think it's 15% jewel reduction. I don't think it's a flat 15. It just said minus 15 on the database, but it seems like that would be kind of broken if it was just minus 15. For Gate 3, I don't always recommend that. For him, I definitely do recommend it, because the leader skill's not bad. It's a decent all-arounder. It's like Gerald's leader skill plus another 10% P attack and magic evasion, so pretty good all around. And then he wants the evasion anyway, so it's just like a double bonus. Gluttony's more stats that you want. And then what Wrath does is it adds the conditional damage onto his move. It's like the Swift Spirit. It replaced Soul Slicer, so now it's a teleport move. And it adds it so if they have a status effect on them, it'll do bonus damage. And I'm guessing it increases the modifiers as well. And then I haven't maxed Gate 6 yet because I'm still being conservative with resources. But, you know, if you wanted to get it, you could throw his normal Memento into the sub slot and run him with whatever group skill you need him for. That's just the added bonus of characters that have Gate 6 unlocked. Alright, so yeah, that is about it for his general setup. So next up, I'm going to go back to the training dummy method of showcasing because he has a lot of moves that build on each other, and I think it would be much, much faster just to do it that way. So yeah, let's go take a look at that training dummy. Alright, let's get this showcase of moves on the road. So the first thing I want to do is make that message go away and also get some jewels. I think that'll be enough to work with. So I want to start by showing off the permanent disable heal that also raises his slash attack, agility, and evasion, and you can stack it up to 3 times. So this both burns HP and makes it so you can't heal. So it's certainly high risk, high reward, but I was using it in the intro clip as well, and it did noticeably improve his evasion. So, you know, you can only get hit, you know, maybe once or twice, but the chances of getting hit are so much lower. So we'll just pop 3 of those in a row. So now we'll have the maximum amount. So the one thing I won't be able to do in this case is showcase how much his dodging snowball will contribute to his damage. But the intro video showed off some of those numbers, as well as I think I got 2 stacks of this. So we're going to go for all 3. Okay, so yeah, now we've got the maximum stacks of that. So next thing, let's try out his Memento ability and inflict that lowering of slash res. So that's how much it's going to do there. And now he's got his slash res lowered. Let's get a little bit more jewels. Now let's lower his resistance to back attacks with 4 flashes. So this one is really nice. I really like this move even if you don't plan on following it up with a backstab, because it's just a 4 hit that can crit, and it could inflict bind if they're susceptible, and then it also lowers backslash res. So not terrible damage altogether. And so now we got slash down and back res down, and he's got status effect on him. So then we would want to follow this up with the Shadow Swift Spirit. So this is the Gate 5 version, where it's a teleport move. So no matter where you are, you'll think like Attack on Titan units, like teleport to them and then backstab. And then it'll ignore defense, and it can crit, and it's strong versus humans, and it'll raise your agility for 1 turn, and it has the conditional damage. So that's like 20k damage. That's pretty solid. Most, you know, it's pretty uncommon to see the Shadow Assassin archetype of job hit that high, and it could hit higher if he dodges lots of attacks first. The way that I see Corvus is like he might be able to be a boss slayer under the right circumstances, but he's definitely a good like annoying priority target slayer. So he's got the mobility and then like the teleport on top of that. So that's kind of like his basic combo, a good sequence of moves to use. But then whenever, you can also use Lightning Crows. This is a very good spammable move to use after you've gotten the disable heal on yourself, because the conditional damage comes from you having a status effect instead of the enemy. And then it'll also ignore defense when attacking from behind. So odds are, if you follow it up with the Swift slash move, and then you're behind them already. Then you're in perfect position to use Lightning Crow and get, it's not huge, but another 12k damage. I think that Corvus's speed helps a lot for like he doesn't hit a lot of damage at once, but he can probably get a pretty good total amount of damage, just because he's so fast. So there's certain situations where that's less helpful, like turn count limit battles, like with like port raids. But he's not really a raid unit, though. I think he's more of a just anti-magic map specialist. Oh, I think we need more jewels again. So I don't think there's really anything on his basic kit that I really need to mention. It's just what you'd expect from a Shadow Assassin. Whatever the name of the status effect on the move, that's the status effect it inflicts. So we can kind of skip that. So Thundering Moon, that's his Babel War Art. That was like the increase your own dodge move on a Shadow Assassin, but for him it's also a teleport that will increase his magic evasion until next turn. Yeah, so it's not bad. It's just good. I use it more for mobility, and ideally if I can wipe out a few targets at the same time, it's good for that. And then, especially if you're warping into an area where magic attacks are imminent. Let's see, is there anything else? Nope, that is pretty much it for his kit, aside from, might as well give his gear ability a try. So this hit is random, so that kind of sucks, but it's 8 hits, so chances are at least a few of them are going to hit. And it is a big AoE around him, and so that's just another good way of setting up status effects for that big, teleport, ignore defense move. So yeah, that's pretty much his, wow, that was a lot of poison damage, his kit in a nutshell. He inflicts status effects, he's got a high risk, high reward, disable heal curse, he can teleport around, shank stuff. I don't think he's like the most amazing unit, but I think he's solid, he's dependable. If he's free to play, you should definitely get him, because he just doesn't ask much of you resource wise, aside from just the general stuff like Zenny and materials. But like free to play memento, free gear, all that, easy to farm. So yeah, he gets my seal of approval. I really like him. I really appreciate this upgrade. So next up is going to be Spica, and after that is going to be Zahar. So until then, I will see you all next time